FPL Game Week 33, the top transfer targets. We are going in all different directions with our teams at the moment, whether you're going to be playing your free hit in Game Week 34, whether you're wildcard in Game Week 35, when you're bench boosting, playing your triple captain, and we're into the final 6 weeks of the season, and we're going to have 3 double game weeks to play in them. So today I'm going to take you through who are those players you should be considering buying into your team, whether you're looking to play in Game Week 34 or whether you're planning for the long term for your team. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Welcome back for another video. Before we dive in, 1,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here. And we're going to start off with the key team that we are looking at the moment, and that is Liverpool. Of course, they have the double game week in Game Week 34, and they have Crystal Palace at home this week. So they are probably #1 priority that people are considering buying this week, alongside Arsenal, who we will discuss in just a moment. Now, we have had a little bit of injury news for Liverpool over the past couple of days, which does throw a little bit of a spanner in the works. It does change potentially the players we are thinking about buying into our teams, or if we already own some in our teams already. That is that Trent Alexander-Arnold, Alisson and Jota have all been taking part in Liverpool team training, should be available to at least be on the bench in Game Week 33. And so should, in theory, be available to start in Game Week 34 for the double. That is why here we've got Bradley and Kelleher crossed out. For me, they are both avoids now. You should not be looking to buy both of these into your team, even though they are really affordable and offer a very good price. Because Trent is back, and of course, because Alisson is back, it does mean that we cannot be assured of their minutes. That, for me, leaves 4 options for you to go and buy into your FPL team. Now, if we knew that Alisson was definitely going to start both in the double, which we don't currently know at the moment, you could go and buy that. Now, there are a few other keepers who are much cheaper for the double that I would probably prefer. But if you wanted to go and buy Alisson, you potentially could. But outside of that, I do think there are 4. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I don't expect to start both in the double. I think Bradley will start 1, Trent will start 1. And I think Jota's role between now and the end of the season will be as a perfect super sub. For me, he's one of the best impact subs in the Premier League at the moment. And I do think that Klopp will not want to risk him having another serious long-term injury when they are chasing the league, when they are chasing in Europe as well. So for me, there are 4 real options to go and buy. First of all is in defence. If you want a defender, you can, of course, go Alisson if you need a goalkeeper. But in defence, Virgil van Dijk, I think, is worth the 6.6 million. There are some good attackers that you can look to buy, but if you are looking for a defender, he has okay clean sheet potential. I'd probably predict a clean sheet in the double. And he's had a couple of shots recently. He's scored as well in some of the past games. So I do think he is a very decent defender. And if I was on a free hit and could pick any defenders, he would probably be right up there alongside the Arsenal defence. Now, to be honest, what I do think is the optimal is to go and buy the triple attack: Darwin, Luis Diaz and Salah. Now, not everyone can go with these. Not everyone can fit all 3 of them into your team. But planning to own 2 of these for the double, I do think is the best way to go. Now, of course, with Diogo Jota back for Liverpool, there is a little bit of doubt for the minutes of these. But I do think they should start. You should probably get 5 out of 6 starts from these 3 going into the double. Diogo Jota might start 1. You might get a start for Gakpo in one of the games, but they are actually not the easiest away from home games in the double. So I would expect Klopp to go with pretty full strength team in them. And if they do get comfortable leads, then they can potentially make some substitutions. But after the drop points for Manchester United, I do expect them to go into most games between now and the end of the season with Darwin, Salah and Luis Diaz as the front 3. That is the 3 that I'm going to go into the double with at the moment. That is my current plan. Van Dijk is a nice alternative for Alisson, but unfortunately the 2 cheap options who could have been great enablers for us are not worth it anymore. Next up is Arsenal. Now, Arsenal have just drawn 2-2 with Bayern Munich. I think, again, with the double coming up, Gabriel and Saka are the 2 to go with. Gabriel has had more big chances in the league to score goals than all of the Arsenal defenders combined. So Ben White, Saliba offer great alternatives as an addition to Gabriel, but Gabriel should be the #1 defender you're looking to own. Saka as well, just consistent. We saw in Game Week 32 as well. The penalty route to points is there. He scored in the Champions League as well. For me, these are the 2 best Arsenal players. And the key question always remains, which is the third one you should be looking to buy. With Villa at home this week and then the double, I do think this is a reasonable time to go and buy your third if you don't own it already. Or if you're going to free hit in game week 34, you still should be considering some of these Arsenal players because they do have a decent run between now and the end of the season. Now, David Raya in goal is great. I think probably not worth it when you look at some of the other Arsenal assets, but if you're really in need of a goalkeeper, he has to be worth considering. Just not sure he's worth one of the 3 Arsenal precious spots that we get, given how well they are playing at the moment. And then Saliba and Ben White, you can go with either. Of course, I went with Ben White in my team as the double up on the Arsenal defence. Really like the pair of them. Saliba slightly better for your sort of bonus points, but Ben White does have a little bit more attacking threat, as we saw him pick up an assist in the Champions League as well for the Bukayo Saka goal. Actually, if it was me now, I'd be going with the double Arsenal attack. Odegaard versus Havertz is close, but I would be going with Kai Havertz. Arteta has spoken very highly of him playing up front, how well he thinks he's linking the team at the moment. So if I was on free hit in game week 34, Gabriel, Saka and Kai Havertz would be the 3 that I would go with. There's absolutely nothing wrong with going with double defence. It's probably the better longer term plan given the amount of strong midfielders we do have. Saliba, White, both great buys, but I can't look past Havertz's explosivity over the next 3 games. So just to put that in perspective and ranking all the players in the double in game week 34, who I'd be buying. Raya is my number 1 goalkeeper, followed by Alisson, but not loads of us are going to have space to fit these 2 into our teams. Jose Sarr, I do prefer slightly over Jordan Pickford. Jordan Pickford did keep that clean sheet against Burnley, but Forest and Liverpool both been scoring goals recently, so I'm not massively confident of a clean sheet there. So Sarr is 3. And then, although the fixtures might look okay for Crystal Palace, I do think they're much better for their attackers than their defenders. So Dean Henderson does come in number 5. Going into defence, Gabriel is the best defender for the double. Very closely followed by Van Dijk, and then doubling up on the Arsenal defence if you want to with Ben White. Now, Aït-Nouri comes in 4 as we are expecting him back for the double. Whether he plays in game week 33 though is still up for debate, which is why he has the caution sign. So be a little bit careful if you are considering buying him this week. And if you need another cheap option, Munoz at Crystal Palace, 4.5, very attacking with some nice fixtures in the double. Into midfield, Salah takes number 1, and then it is Saka, then it is Kai Havertz. Now, of course, we've got lots of Arsenal players and lots of Liverpool players in the top few rankings here, so you do have to pick and choose a little bit who you're going to go and buy, but I do really like Havertz if you have the space for an Arsenal player. Luis Diaz comes in number 4, and then I have gone with Eze over the Wolves options. Now, if you're buying this week, Wolves have Forest away, whereas Crystal Palace go away to Liverpool. So if you're buying in game week 33, buying a Wolves player makes more sense to buy in Crystal Palace. But if you look at the double alone, I think Eze could be a great option. Elise is back in the squad for Crystal Palace, but I'm still not sure with the way they're easing some of the players back in, like Eze, whether he's going to be starting both in the double. So I would still go Eze over Elise at the moment. Up front, Darwin is the best striker for the double. There is a little bit of caution around Diego Jota coming back, but I do think Darwin should start both. Dominic Solanke comes in next. Poor recent form, but Villa will be without Douglas Luiz for that game. And then they play a Wolves team who have been pretty mixed defensively recently. Mateta comes in 3 just based off the fixtures in the double. Cunha comes in 4. And then I've put Gabriel Jesus 5. This even could be Oliver McBurney of Sheffield United, who does actually play Burnley at home as part of his double game week. So if you are planning for the double, you're looking to dead end into game week 34, these are the top players to buy in each position. Now, looking elsewhere from the teams who double, one team to talk about who don't actually have a double game week left this season is Brentford. I think they could offer really nice short-term punt and differentials in our team. We're looking at players like Wolves, who play Arsenal in the double, Crystal Palace, who go away to Liverpool this week, a few others who are potentially rotation prone. And I think there is a good chance that some of these Brentford players do actually outscore your Wolves or your Crystal Palace players over the next couple of weeks, despite not having a double game week. Sheffield United at home, Luton away in the next 2, Everton, Fulham, Bournemouth, and even Newcastle at home on the final day is a really nice run. If you're wildcarding game week 35, you're looking for a cheap option. Are you going to buy Jordan Pickford, who goes away to Chelsea and plays Liverpool in the double? Or could you think about buying a Flecken in goal? Could you think about buying a Reguilon, who did pick up 2 assists last game? That's why no one's going to be looking at them, because they don't double, but they could offer nice differentials. So Flecken in goal, Reguilon in defence, who of course got 2 clean sheets last game, and then all 3 of their attackers. Now, game week 32, where they drew 3-3 with Villa, Toney didn't actually start that game because he has been carrying a slight knock, which is a little bit of a doubt. He should start the Sheffield United at home game, but there is that slight bit of doubt in my mind about it. Mbeumo and Visa were fantastic in that game, and I do expect both of them to probably start. It is possible that all three of these players do start together. It has happened occasionally for Brentford previously, and I think the firepower they hold together is really, really good. Now, I think Mbeumo is nailed, and I think Toney is pretty nailed, and I think Visa should start, but he's probably the one I'm least sure on the minutes. But they're just worth thinking about, briefly mentioning to you if you are looking for a bit of differentials, potentially looking away from some of those doublers, given the fixtures Brentford do have and some of the form they are showing at the moment. Now, looking at some of the future doubles, particularly for those of you who are free hitting game week 34, but maybe some of those who don't have that many chips left. First of all, of course, is the double announced in game week 35. Who are the players you should be considering buying into your team? Or should you be considering buying them this week, or what should you be doing with them going forward? Of course, Chelsea versus Spurs both have that double in game week 35. Chelsea playing Aston Villa and Spurs. Spurs playing Chelsea and Liverpool. Of course, the double in game week 37 you've got on screen here is predicted. It has not been announced, but we think it's very, very likely that the double in game week 37 does fall this way. Now, looking at the top Chelsea players, Petrovic is an interesting one. He's had a couple of mistakes recently, and I've always said that when we get to the end of the season, if Chelsea don't have loads to play for, I think there is a decent chance that Sanchez gets some minutes. If you've got Petrovic, wouldn't go off him, wouldn't go selling him, but there is a little bit of doubt about me recommending you to buy him. Gusto missed game week 32 with illness, should be back in for game week 33. I don't expect us to see Reece James back soon, so despite the Chelsea form, I think he's a decent buy still. Of course, Cole Palmer should be in everyone's team for this run of fixtures. If you don't want to own him now and then Arsenal away, you should be owning him for game week 35 until the end of the season. Now, Nicholas Jackson is an okay buy, it's a bit of a differential. I might own him on my wildcard in game week 35, but he is on 9 yellow cards, and that is the slight risk that you have with him. Once Chelsea have played 32 games, so it's not game week 32, once they've played game 32 matches, they've got to play a couple more, then that 9 yellow cards will reset. So he's one to think about for the future, probably not one to go and buy now. Now, looking at Spurs, similar options at the moment. I like Vicario in goal, and he's actually in my current game week 35 potential wildcard draft that I'm building at the moment. Into defense, I think Porro, of course, scored this week. Udogie is a nice cheaper option, and then we've got Heung-min Son. The issue with recommending other attackers, of course, is Richarlison has been in and out of the team. Brennan Johnson looks really good, but when Richarlison comes back, could that displace him? I think Brennan Johnson could be actually a really, really nice differential if you have a space in your midfield, but Son should definitely be the number one pick still. The issue with them is, of course, not only do they have Newcastle away this week, where I do think they could have a little bit of luck, but they blank in game week 34. So they're probably not massive ones to go and buy now, unless you are definitely free hitting in game week 34, because then they do walk into a double. Then it's Liverpool, and then it's another double, and then they play Sheffield United away on the final game of the season. So if you are free hitting game week 34, or you don't need to worry about that week, you're planning for the rest of the season, then Spurs and Chelsea do become a little bit more of a priority. And then we look at Manchester United. So they had Liverpool this week. We did talk about them last week, but once that Liverpool fixture was out of the way, the fixture run does continue to look really nice. Fernandes and Garnacho and Diego Dallo for me are the optimal three that you could own. Fernandes probably won't find a place into lots of our midfields, but he is on set pieces, he is on penalties. So 8.2 million, he can be an okay differential. Garnacho feels a fantastic pick and enabler for the run-in when we're trying to consider Saka, Salah, Son, Haaland in our teams. Having a 4.9 Garnacho and a 6 million Cole Palmer in our teams allows us to do a lot elsewhere. Højlund is interesting. He's actually had a couple of early minute subs, so despite him looking like a good pick on paper with the fixtures, not 100% sold on him at the moment. Defensively, Diego Dallo is best. I like Onana in goal. Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire are both cheap, nice options. Wan-Bissaka looks pretty nailed at the moment. We aren't expecting Luke Shaw to play again between now and the end of the season. Harry Maguire is a little bit up in the air because we don't have long-term plans for when Martinez and Varane might be back, which could cause a little bit of rotation for Harry Maguire. So I would probably favour, if you need another one, Wan-Bissaka over Maguire at the moment, but Diego Dallo, if you have the money, looks like a much, much better pick with his attacking returns. And then finally, we wrap up by looking at Newcastle. Of course, No double in the short term, but some of these fixtures they've got coming up now do look really nice. Again, they are a team that if you're looking to carry through between now and the end of the season, you don't have a wild card, they should be some of the top priorities. In defence, Dan Burn is the one that a lot of people are going with at 4.4. Do think that Fabian Schär at 5.5 is good if you have the money. And once Kieran Trippier is back at 6.5, could be a really nice differential explosive for the run-in if you have the money spare. He's not naturally worth the 6.7 million that he is at the moment, but if you have spare money, could be a really nice differential. Now, talking in goal very briefly, Dubravka looks like a fine pick, but we are expecting Nick Pope to play some minutes between now and the end of the season. So if you own Dubravka at the moment, of course, don't go selling him, but I'm not sure I'd be buying Dubravka new based on clean sheets that they're keeping at the moment and that we expect Nick Pope back. Into midfield, Anthony Gordon is the one that I look at. Elliot Anderson at 4.2 million, I think he is now. Could be another cheap enabler, looking like Willock might not play again this season. So a nice option, but Gordon is definitely the one there to pick now that he has, of course, evaded his suspension and won't pick up that 10 yellow card suspension between now and the end of the season. Some nice runs in there. He looks nailed for them. He's on penalties behind Isak. And yeah, the double coming in game week 37. And of course, the man up front didn't score last game, but has had chances. That is Isak. He's almost nailed in on my game week 35 wildcard. He will be very, very popular for the run-in. And Spurs at home this week, looking at how Spurs are defending, you can definitely go and buy him a little bit earlier if you want to. So no matter your chip strategy, whether you're free hitting in game week 34, whether you're wildcard 35, whether you're triple captaining bench boost, we have discussed a lot of the hot topic players this week. Who's good, who's bad, who's to buy, who's to avoid. I'm sure it leaves a lot of questions about your teams as well. So drop all the questions you have in the comment section down below. We'll be back tomorrow with an update of what I plan on doing with my team. Of course, there was a little bit of a yellow flag added to Phil Foden last night after the Champions League game as well. So we'll discuss all of that in my team selection and final decisions video. 1,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here as well. And I'll be back again very soon.